Hi guys, here we are, drawer number 3, my favorite drawer. This is where all the vintage patterns are. So I am excited to show you, well, I shouldn't say all, this is where most of my vintage patterns are. The ones that I think hopefully someday I might possibly make. But if you remember in the first video I told you I love to collect vintage patterns, and for me more than anything else it's about the artwork on the front. And I have tried to do research about the different artists of each pattern company from each decade, but there's not a lot of information out there. But I keep collecting, and there are certain eras that I really love more than others. There are certain styles that I'm really drawn to all the time, and I have purged this collection a few times to get rid of not actual duplicate patterns, but sometimes duplicate styles that I've bought just because I get sucked in by the artwork. So I've had to let go of quite a few. First of all, because I'm running out of space, but secondly, it's just silly to have this many patterns. And I remember a friend of mine came to visit once, and it was a man, and he said, and he saw all the patterns, and he said, and all the fabric, and he said, does that mean you're going to make one piece of clothing from each thing that I see here? And it was a little embarrassing because I had to say, well, yeah, I guess that's the plan. I'll probably never do it though. And I do give away a lot of the things that I make too. So anyways, that's my rationalization for having so many patterns. So let's take a look at the third drawer and see if you enjoy this collection as much as I do. Okay, so here is the majority of my patterns, and most of them are from the 1970s, and most of them are smaller sizes. So by that I mean size 10 and under, remembering that as you go back in time, the sizing differs every decade. So a 10 is, I think it's about like a waist is like a 26 or 27, depending on the pattern company. So they're fairly small. So this first section, and this drawer I don't have organized into pattern companies like I do the other two drawers. This one, they're all mixed because this is more in terms of style. So this first section is mostly bathing suits. So I don't know if you caught that on one of the other videos I mentioned. I love bathing suit patterns, even though you know, I do sew a lot of my own bathing suits, but I tend to sew the same pattern over and over. So I don't know why I keep buying these, but there's just some really fun ones. Like, look at this. This is probably this is probably from the 1960s, I'm gonna guess. But look at that. I love this little cover up top. I think that's adorable, and I did make that at one time, and I think I've given it away since then. But cute little bikini. Here's another awesome one. Look at that bikini. Maybe I just keep thinking if I make one of these, I'll get a body like these girls in the drawings, but that's unlikely to happen unless I make the workout wear from the second drawer. There's some other fun ones. What do we have here? When you're searching for patterns in the thrift shops, I always, as soon as I see like this colored top like this, I go for it because I know that it's a simplicity pattern from the 70s or earlier, because that's the way they used to style their patterns. This one, you know, there's going to be a time in my life when I can no longer wear bikinis, and so I do have some one pieces. There's another good classic one piece. I love that one. So yeah, these are all, these ones I collected. This was really big a while ago, but I used to think these people are crazy. This is so, you know, this was a classic in the 70s and 80s, were these one-piece multi-style patterns. So this was the dress, and everybody was acting, you know, a couple of years ago like this was cutting-edge fashion. Well, they used to do this in the 70s. There's a great one that's pants. It's a jumpsuit. And that's just a couple of the styles, ways that you can wear it. This one is a dress. Isn't that awesome? And I think on the back they show some more ways that you can wear it. So I love those, but again, you know, I had to, all the pattern companies had those, and so eventually I had to stop myself from buying them. And then this is another style that I just, I can't get enough of. Look at it. It's the simplest thing. It's just a little tube top on some pants or on a skirt, but that artwork, I just think is so cool. And I used to have way too many of these types of patterns, and eventually I did sell them in my Etsy shop. They're a classic, and they never go out of style. And they're simple to make, so... and so then we get into some pajamas. I just made that middle style a few months ago in the summer. They were this year's summer pajamas. Look at that classic 70s caftan with a hoodie. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, I have quite a few little camisole patterns because they all have different necklines, right? So I have to get another pattern. Coats, I love that. I'll never make it, but I love it. This one, I just think this is so chic. This is very Audrey Hepburn, Roman Holiday. I think it always reminds me of that. So one of these days, I'm gonna make that dress and wear it in the summertime. Someday. Some suits. So I've always wanted to make this, and I think this is just a great little blazer, but you have to watch with the patterns from the 70s. The collars are sometimes a little out of control. So sometimes you have to do some alterations when you have patterns from the 70s. And I rarely ever, I don't know if I've ever made bottoms for many of my vintage patterns because the proportions are so different. The waists are so much higher. Here's another one. This was I remember this was one of my very first vintage patterns that I bought, and because I just love this top. Have I made it? No, I haven't. But someday I will. What else do we have in here? This one I've made a couple of times. I think I made it as the top, and I made it as the dress. Turns out really nice as the dress. It's a butterick. This is probably from the 80s. So, you know, depending on your definition of vintage, you might not think that that's actually very vintage. But to me, anything, you know, I would say 80s and older is pretty vintage, and the other ones are just sort of getting old. So again, here's one that I just love the pattern. Look at that. Does that say size 20? Oh no, that says size 10. What the heck? Why do I have that in my collection here? But isn't that a great photo? Look at her hair. Look at the whole style. All of it's so great. I just couldn't resist. What else do we have here? Now this is one of those instances where I just love the artwork. I don't know, I'm really drawn to whoever did the McCall's artwork for a few years in the, I think it was the late 70s. 1978, yeah. I don't know, I'm just really drawn to the way they drew these girls. Their big eyes and their cute hair and all of that. So I'm a sucker for those patterns whenever I see them. And they're I don't see them very often, so I do tend to grab them. I try to stay away from the caftan patterns because I know they take a lot of fabric, and I know I'm probably not going to make them, but every once in a while I get sucked in. And there was a time when Simplicity had a lot of these, this kind of style where you just had like 2 or 3 pieces. This one's a 3-piece pattern because Simplicity was like not the pattern company Simplicity, but the idea of simplicity, simplistic sewing was really big. But see, I think, you know, these days you could get away with that as a dress easily. This is another, this is also McCall's, and I think this might even be the same artist. 1976, so this was just a little bit earlier, and this style of artwork, I just really, I don't know, it's just so quintessentially 70s, I guess. I just love it. I grew up in the 70s, so I didn't know it at the time, of course, because I was a kid, but the 70s was a pretty cool time. And it took a while for us to look back and think that it was cool. So, I did make this little top a couple of times. Of course, I wore it over top of something. But that reminded me of sort of a J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez, cool vintage look. Of course, no vintage pattern collection is complete without the Marlowe's Corner patterns. I don't have very many of them because usually I find, when I do find them, they're in larger sizes, but that's cute. I think I would have to take in the sleeves quite a bit. But as a tunic, that's really cute, and as a dress, I like that one. And then here we go with some more, I think this is 80s, but look at that discotheque look. Love it. That I could definitely, if I ever have to go to the club again, I could get away with that easily. This, I love this pattern, and I did make this top, and it turned out great. It fit perfectly. That's a size 9, and a bust 33. I really like that pattern. That's an awesome pattern. So you can see here's again some more of that same artwork. I'm actually not all that crazy about this pattern, but those girls, I had to buy them. They're so cute. And then at the very end here, as usual, this is where I stick, you know, any patterns I have for men. I don't have very many. Look at this. I got a caftan for a man. I was going to make this for my dad at one time, but I don't know, it takes a lot of fabric. Some accessories. Everybody's got to have probably 1 or 2 of those in their drawer. Yeah, just some other, you know, other stuff that I'll probably never make. Oh, this one. Oh, a tie. You gotta have a tie pattern. Now this one you really have to alter because the ties in the 70s were quite a bit bigger than they are now. And if you've been watching my blog for a long, long time, you'll know that I did make this, this little elephant. These are, what do you call them? Draft catchers. So they sit at the bottom of the door, and I still have him. He's sitting at my basement door, keeping the draft out. So that's my favorite drawer. So that's my favorite drawer with most of my vintage patterns. And then I do have a little section right over here under my TV where I keep the patterns where I really do, they're like on my to-do list, and they're the ones that I really have every intention of making in the very near future. Those ones, a lot of them is kind of a dream, like someday hopefully I'll get around to making them. But these ones are definitely on the to-do list, and so this is where I have a lot more, sort of the more modern patterns and some vintage ones, but more the kids' patterns, the basics. I've made this McCall's pattern, oh gosh, 8 or 10 times probably. So I made a lot of leggings for myself, but then I made leggings for my sister as well. And what else do I have over here that's really basic? Oh, don't you love the old brick shields? One of these days I'm going to make, well, there I go, I just said it, one of these days. I really am. This winter I'm going to make the this off-the-shoulder top because I think it's sexy and sassy. And then I have a whole bunch of, again, if you've been watching my blog for any sort length of time, you'll know that I love to take old t-shirts and I make them into underwear. So I like to collect underwear patterns, so I have quite a few here. So some lingerie and different underwear patterns that I like to try out on all my old t-shirts. And this is one that I pull out every single year, and every year I don't do it. But look at this. Isn't it awesome? I think I bought this one on eBay. These are, what do you call them? Spats. So you make them and you put them over your shoes to make them look like boots. So of course, I think in the original days of spats, they were used to keep your shoes clean, and these ones are more for fashion. And so one of these days, I just have to find fabric that would translate well as boots, other than like upholstery vinyl or that kind of thing. I want to find like a really good heavyweight fabric. I just haven't found it yet, but I keep pulling it out, so someday I'm going to make it. And then more kids patterns here. I think I need to rotate some of these because it's October right now, and that's too summery to make. So that'll get pulled and something new will go in here. So that's it. And so I will admit there are more patterns. There are more kids patterns that I rotate out. There are the patterns that I haven't sold from my Etsy shop that maybe someday I'll open again, but it's a lot of work, answering all the questions and sending out patterns and having people who don't understand that Canada is a separate country, and sometimes international mail takes a little bit longer. So that was a bit of a headache, but it was fun and I did well, but it's a lot of work. So I don't know if I'll reopen that shop or not, but in the meantime, I still have all my inventory from that. And then I have a bin of patterns in the basement that I just can't bear to let go of, because even though they're old, I do think someday that some of them will come back in style, and some of them I just love so much, and so I keep them. I will probably have to do another purge one of these days, and actually I have a stack over in the corner of about 70 patterns that I did just pull the other day to either give away or put in the Etsy shop or whatever. So I am very aware that I have too much, but I enjoy it and it's fun, and it feeds my other hobbies, the actual sewing of the fabric and all that kind of thing. So I enjoy it, and I hope you enjoyed this little tour through Patternland, and I'll see you all soon. Thanks very much for joining me. Bye-bye.